What's up, everybody? Welcome back, lunatics. We're back out in the garage, aka the bait laboratory, and we're gonna be making some baits today. This is gonna be a little bit of a different one. You've seen me make spinner baits, you've seen me make jig, you've seen me make plastics, but we're gonna make some hair jigs today. Hair jigs can be a pretty cool little bait. I've caught some smallmouth on hair jigs over the last couple years, and I decided that I wanted to try making them myself. So I did a little research, talked to some people, and found a mold that I thought would do well for the hair jig, looked at other different hair jigs on the market, and I decided to go with Marabou hair as well. I think that Marabou is a pretty good type of hair to fish the hair jig, so we're gonna go with that. And I got the bullet nose jig from Do It Molds, and I'm gonna show you all this stuff here in a second. And this video is gonna be a two-part video. I'm gonna do one part where I'm actually just making the jig, getting it all painted up, and then the second video is gonna be my first attempt at tying up the Marabou hair onto this hair jig. So you're gonna see me either do a really good job, do a really crappy job, or just do okay. I'm gonna video it and just show you guys how it goes. But that's gonna be the plan. That's what we're gonna be doing today's video. So enough talking, let's switch over and show you all these different Do It Molds products that you can go and get and make these hair jigs yourself. So let's get into it. All right, so we're starting off with the bullet nose jig by Do It Molds. We got a couple different hooks here. They're both VMC hooks. We got 1/0 and size 1 hooks that go into this mold. Here's the different color Marabou. We got this chartreuse color. We got some brown. We got some olive. We've got black, more olive, more chartreuse, more brown. We got the bobbin right here. That's going to go on to when we actually tie up our hair jigs. And then what you need right here is the vise to hold your jig while you tie up everything. We got some thread right here, and we have our thread scissors. This is the stuff that you need in order to make these jigs. The lead pot's getting nice and hot right now to pour these jigs. So hopefully this video is something that you guys enjoy and something you want to do yourself. And then hopefully, eventually I get some good content catching some smallies on these hair jigs. So I have tried making hair jigs myself. I've used like some synthetic hair, but never the Marabou hair. And the more and more research I did into these hair jigs, the more I realized I think that Marabou is the way to go. I mean, you can get hair jigs with different style hair, different kinds of hair. There's bear fur, there's Marabou hair, there's synthetic, there's I think rabbit fur. There's all kinds of different hair that you can use to make hair jigs. But it seems like the Marabou is very, very common and something that gives you a lot of action and gives you some bulk. And I think it's just the way to go, so we're gonna try that. I've never tied any Marabou before, and it looks kind of like a unique process, and I'm gonna do the best I can to show you guys that process and to get something good at the end of this two-part series. And if not, it is what it is, but it's gonna be, my learning curve here, just like everybody else has a learning curve when they get into bait making and making different stuff. So as soon as this lead is ready to go, we're gonna get into making these hair jigs, and the first step in the process is making the actual jig head. So let's get into it. Okay, so obviously the first step in the process is having your mold. This is the bullet nose jig. It comes in an 1/8 and 1/4 ounce. I'm gonna open up the mold and show you guys the inside. And as you can see, we got 3 slots for the 1/8 ounce, 3 slots for the 1/4 ounce. And I think I'm gonna be making some of every single size in this video, but I think most of the time I'm gonna be using that 1/8 ounce version. If I'm gonna be fishing a hair jig down deep, I might go with that 1/4 ounce, but most of the time I'm probably gonna be fishing this 1/8 ounce. So like I said in the intro, I've got 2 different sized hooks. They're both VMC hooks. And the first one that I'm gonna put in here is the size 1. And then I'm gonna also do some in the size 1/0. The 1/4 ounce jigs are gonna have the 1/0, and the 1/8 ounce are gonna have the size 1. So if you're ever wondering how to figure out what size hooks to use in your molds, all the molds give you those details. So like as you can see right here, the 1/4 ounce size call for the 1/0 hook, and then the 1/8 ounce size calls for the number 1 size hook. And I've already laid them in here, as you can see. So we're gonna be making 6 of these up in one shot. One thing you can always do that's helpful when you're pouring different lead-based baits is put your mold on top of your lead pot. This is the Lee pot that I'm using right here. And as you're heating up your lead, everything gets hot. The mold starts to get hot. The components inside the mold start to get hot. And it just makes pouring your lead into these molds and getting complete pours a little bit easier. Another quick little tip for everybody is if you're having trouble with your pours and getting incomplete pours, one, don't throw all those components away because you can melt all that lead off. But one thing you can try is some of this dry lube with Teflon in it from Blaster. This stuff has helped me out, and I use it in some of my molds when I'm making different baits. And I actually suggested this kind of a product to somebody that was having trouble. They just started pouring some of their own spinner baits and stuff like that, and they were having some issues, and this stuff did the trick and started getting them some complete pours. So give this a try if you're having trouble. So one thing I want to show you guys is this nail that I have in the spout of my lead pot. This little nail right here helps keep the spout nice and open, so that way when everything dries, when it's cool, when you turn your pot off, this stays in there, and then when everything heats up and gets all liquid, you can pull that nail out, and then you have a nice clean spout, and then you're gonna have a better chance at getting a nice clean pour. So you might want to try it on your own if you're having issues. All right, so I think we're ready to go. I think everything's nice and hot, so let's get some of these jigs poured up, and we're gonna get the nail out, make sure we got a good spout going, pour the lead in. Gonna do it in all 6 cavities, and let's see if everything filled in good. I'm gonna put that nail back in the spout to make sure everything stays nice and open, just like that, and then we'll check on these here in a second when they cool down. All right, so let's check on our jigs, see how they turned out. And they turned out very good. As you can see, we got all 6 of them in there, ready to go. Nice complete pours. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. We're gonna get these out of the mold, and then we're gonna pour another 6. Okay, so we got our size 1 VMC hooks that we're gonna be putting in our 1/8 ounce slots. So we're gonna get them out of here. We got 1 going in. Number 2 going in, and then number 3 going into our mold, just like so. Close it up. We're gonna get our number 1s for our 1/4 ounce size. Our 1/aughts for our 1/4 ounce size. The number 1s go in the 1/8 ounce size. And if you really wanted to and just get away with buying 1 size hook, you could probably get away with either the size 1 or 1/aught in either size of these jig heads, but you might have to do a little bit of modification to your mold, but nothing major from what I'm seeing here. Okay, so let's close our mold up and get these ready to go. You always want to check the top of your mold to make sure everything's nice and flush, so that way you don't get any flashing or anything like that. And if you're pouring out in the cold, something that you guys might want to do is always put your mold back on top of your lead pot, because if it's super cold, your mold's going to cool down really fast, and that might assist you in getting some incomplete pours. Okay, so we should be ready for our second round of pouring. Gonna get that nail out once again, make sure we got a good flow, and then start getting all the lead into our cavities. We're gonna pour all 6 cavities again. 5, 6. I'm gonna take my nail, put it back into my spout. One, it blocks all the drips from coming out. The drips that come out of the pot, those are just basically inevitable. Sometimes you can mess with this piece up here and twist it around and get those drips from to stop from coming out, but a lot of times the nail is what does the trick for me. All right, so let's check on our next set of 6 jigs, and we got a good row of 6 there. We got our 1/8 ounce on the left, our 1/4 ounce on the right. They look really, really good. So let's get them out of our mold, take them out one by one, put our 3/4 ounce together, our 3/8 ounce together. You can tell the difference, but this just makes it a little bit easier. And you know what? I think we're gonna paint them. We got 12 jigs ready to go, and I think we'll go to painting them right now. Okay, so what I got in my hand is this 1/8 ounce jig head, and as you can see, you got this sprue on the top. So I'm just gonna take these cutters and just literally just cut it off just like that, and then I'm gonna do that on the rest of them as well. And one thing that you can do is, because you can see right here, we have a little bit of flashing that happened on the ends of these little pieces right here, and you could probably actually cut those off if you wanted to, those keepers. I did see someone using this specific mold
for making their own hair jigs, and they actually cut those off just because they felt like they didn't need them. I'm gonna keep them just because I'm so new to tying hair jigs that I want those keepers there just in case I don't get the thread tight enough. This is gonna keep them from moving around and stuff like that. So off camera, I cut all the sprues off of the jig heads, and I always cut them off into this little Tupperware thing, so that way it collects all the sprues, and then literally you can just take these sprues and then just drop them right back into the lead, so that way you're not wasting any. So the next step in my process with these jigs is I'm going to take this file and I'm going to file down the tips of these jig heads because it matters to me how they look. For some people, this step may not be necessary, but I like everything to be as smooth as possible. I want these jigs to look like something that I can buy in a store. And if I bought hair jigs in a store, they're going to be finished like that. So I don't want any of those sharp edges from me cutting off those sprues to show through. So I'm going to take that extra step and file these noses down so that way there's no sharp edges from those sprues. You definitely could get away with not doing it, but this is a step that I feel is important because I want to have something that I feel is just as good as what I can buy in a store. And I do feel like I can make products that are just as good as what I'm going to buy in a store from, you know, a name brand company or something like that. And I think one of the major things that sets apart the jigs that you might make yourself and something that you can buy in the store is how they look and how finished and how polished they actually are. And if you just take that little bit of extra time and those little bit of extra steps, you can definitely come up with something that's going to be just as good and just as nice as something that you're going to buy from your more, you know, popular brands. Okay, so here are our 12 jigs. We got our 1/4 ounce right here and our 1/8 ounce right here. I didn't obviously cut and file every single jig off on camera. I even filed down these little keepers that you can see on this smaller bait. So those little keepers down on the hook shank, I even cut and made sure those were all nice and clean. That's just something that I do for myself. You don't necessarily have to do that. You could probably skip that step if that stuff's not important to you. It does matter to me because I want something that looks good, something that looks very finished, and so I take those extra steps.
So the next step in the process is going to be painting these jigs. Now the color that you paint these jigs is going to determine upon what look you're going for. I have things that I make that I do not paint. So for example, a lot of the spinner baits that I make, I do not paint the heads on these spinner baits. I just leave them just the straight lead, and I think it gives me a very unique look, and actually I like it a lot better than a painted head on my spinner baits. I just feel like it gives it a different look and a better look personally. But some people really want that white head or chartreuse head or whatever they're going for, and you can do that as well. We are going to paint these jig heads, but if you're going for like a shad pattern, you might be able to get away with not painting the lead on this jig head and putting, you know, white Marabou hair or whatever hair you want and give it a different look and go with that unpainted head and that white or gray or shad colored hair. And I think that that's something you might want to play around with. That would be probably what I would do if I were going to be making a shad colored hair jig, is forego that white paint or chartreuse paint or whatever paint you're going to go with and go straight lead and then tie on my skirt. We are going to paint these ones because I'm not going for that look, but I just wanted to put that out there because that's definitely something I do with my spinner baits, is go with the unpainted head.
Okay, we are at the point where we are going to start painting our jigs right here. These first 4 are going to be black and the black powder paint right here. This is called a fluid bed, and if you've seen my content before, this is going to be some review for you guys. But the fluid bed has air coming from that air pump right there, comes through these lines into the fluid bed. This is all stuff that you can buy from Home Depot. The air pump is literally for a fish tank. You can get that at like Walmart or Target or something like that. And then I'm going to heat up those jigs with this heat gun. So the process I like to follow is holding on to my jig with these small pliers. I'm going to go over here, turn on the heat gun, and then I'm just going to hold this over that heat for a little bit. The first one always takes a little bit longer because the heat isn't all the way high on your heat gun, so it's going to take a little bit longer on that first one, and then we'll just transfer it over to the fluid bed with the black powder paint, That should probably be good for this 1/8 ounce jig. Come over here, dip it in, just like so, and there we go. We got a good looking black jig. Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through this process one more time. Take our jig, hold it over the heat, just like that. Usually you wanna give it, you know, maybe a 15 count on a 1/8 ounce jig like this. I can't keep count in my head while I'm talking to you guys, so I'm just kind of winging it. So if the count's off a little bit, not that big a deal. Come over to the fluid bed, dip it in, get off any extra. There you go, got a good looking jig. Okay, so we're ready to do 4 more of our jigs, and we are gonna do the green pumpkin color this time. So we got the green pumpkin powder paint in our fluid bed. We are gonna come over here, turn on our heat gun, and we are going to heat up our lead jig head. This is the 1/4 ounce one, so you gotta leave it on just a little bit longer than the 1/8 ounce. Usually, depending on how heavy your jig is, that's how much you gotta, you know, do it a little bit longer. So the lighter the jig, shorter amount of time. Bigger the jig, longer amount of time. We'll go over to our green pumpkin powder paint. Get the extra off, and there we go. Good looking jig. Okay, so we got all 12 of our jig heads painted up. We got 4 black ones, 4 green pumpkin, and 4 brown. Now it's time to put them in the oven to bake. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick with the eye buster tool. This eye on this jig is completely filled in with powder paint. You do not want to bake before you do this process, but you take this little eye buster tool just like this, and you're going to stick the eye into the tool just like you see here, and you push down, and then you basically you're breaking up the paint so that way you can get the eye of the hook to be open. Hopefully it's coming through in the video, but then I like to bring it up to my mouth, blow all the extra paint out that you just broke up, and there you have it, clean eye. You do that on any of them that don't have enough gap for the line to go through to tie on the line. Another way you can do the same process if you don't have the eye buster tool is you can take like an old hook and then just stick it into the hook eye and wiggle it around, and that will break up some of that paint as well. Do it on both sides, and I do the same process. I'll blow out any of the extra paint that's in there, and there you have it as well. You have a nice open eye ready to be tied on to your line. So I just cleaned out all the eyes of the hooks, and now it's time to put these into the toaster oven, just like this. And you want to put these in the toaster oven to bake because that makes the paint much more durable, and it's going to be protected from chipping and stuff like that. So you want to put it in the oven like so to bake, and I like to bake them twice actually. I've heard that if you bake them twice, it will make the paint even more durable. So I like to do it, you know, 2 different runs. So like 350 for 20 minutes, and then I let it cool all the way back down, and then I do it again at 350 for another 20 minutes. Okay, so all of these are in there. None of them are touching, and that's one thing that you want to make sure of, is that none of them are touching, because they will end up being stuck together when they get all heated up in there if they're touching. So you want to make sure none of them are touching. So I'm going to go ahead and close up the toaster oven. I'm going to go over here, and it's on the bake setting, and I'm going to go over here to the 20 minutes, and I'm actually a little bit hot. I'm probably closer to 400, but that's okay. Basically just want them to heat up and bake in there, and then when they're all done, we'll come back and I'll show you the final product, and then we'll close this video out. All right, so they are all done being painted and baked. We're gonna get them out, and I'm gonna show you guys a better shot of the finished product. Okay, so here's the finished heads in the light box. Hopefully that's giving you guys a good view of those baits. I think they turned out really cool. I think they'll definitely look a lot better once we get that marabou hair on there. So check in for the next video to check out me tying these things up for the first time. Who knows how it's gonna turn out. So I hope this video has got you intrigued at least, or gotten you to consider, or made you want to make your own tackle. You can make stuff like this that we're making, these hair jigs. You can make spinner baits, you can make buzz baits, you can make
football jigs, swim jigs, flipping jigs, brush jigs, all kinds of different tackle. So go check out the Do It Molds website, and you can check out all the different options that are available to you. All the paint, the skirt materials, all the different tools are all there on the Do It Molds website. I'm gonna put links to all the stuff that I was using in today's video in the description down below. So again, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my channel and drop any comments down below if you have any questions, or if you just like the video, or you just have some constructive criticism to make these videos better in the future. And I just hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, and comment. And if you have some tackle making friends or people you think that would be interested in watching this video, make sure to share it with them as well. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time when we tie the Marabou hair on to these jigs. That'll be my first time tying the hair, so that should be a little bit interesting. Wish me luck on that one, but that'll be up next, or up real soon, so stay tuned for that one. Thanks, see you guys later, bye.